All right. Kevin, can you read it? Is it big enough?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
The disciple. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of love divine. I am a spark, a sacrificial fire, focused within the fiery will of God. And thus I stand. I am the way by which people may achieve. I am a source of strength, enabling them to stand. I am a beam of light shining upon their way, and thus I stand. And standing thus revolve and tread this way, the ways of humanity, and know the ways of God, and thus I stand.
Thank you, Kevin. That's a good way to set the tone for our talk today. So Paula asked me to do a historical or development of the Madonna Ministry, certainly emphasizing the part that Arnold Michael played in that, which I've done. And I've done more than that because I wanted to give also the more philosophical tone of what we are about, and not just the one person that was very instrumental in getting us started. So we're going to talk about the historical development of the Madonna Ministry, which we now call the Madonna Interfaith Community, along with the principles we adhere to. And that being said, I'm going to ask Nikki and Paula, how long have you been in the ministry? How old is our ministry?
I know it's over 40 years old, and I've been in almost 20 years.
Okay. Nikki, how long have you been in?
I've been in since 2008.
2008. Okay, so I'm going to give a deeper historical perspective because our priesthood that we're involved in. Here's me. And I parked this thing this morning. Put it on pause a moment. Okay, what did I want to bring attention to? That our priesthood goes back to what? To the order of Melchizedek. And so we have what we call the spiritual lineage that goes back to the priesthood of Melchizedek. And Jesus was a priest in the order of Melchizedek. And so when Jesus preached his ministry, that was later called the Christian church or Catholic church, what evolved out of that was an apostolic succession. What does that mean? That means ever since the first leader of the church, they were called apostles. And so the apostolic succession then, the continuity of that was brought forth in the different churches, Roman Catholic, the Greek Orthodox, etc. The Russians brought forth so that the apostles were now called bishops. And so our bishophood, if you want to call it that, goes back to the order of Melchizedek. And we used to have somewhere in our information was a historical lineage, the development right from Arnold Michael all the way back to St. Paul, or who started the first Christian church in Antioch. So all I'm saying is that we have a deep root lineage in the order of Melchizedek, And here's what it says in the concordance in the Bible about Melchizedek, that he was a king and a priest of Salem. He is described as being without parents, but this probably means that his genealogy was not recorded. When he met Abraham, he refreshed him with bread and wine, and received tithes from him and blessed him. The endless priesthood of the Messiah, the Lord Jesus Christ, is declared to be after the order of Melchizedek. Now, that being said, in the Hebrew tradition, there were two lineages of priesthood. One was from Melchizedek, and the other was more, I've forgotten what it was called, the priesthood. It has a name, but it was more of the humanistic part of the priesthood. Where Melchizedek was more of the spiritual or mystical applications of understanding how the Spirit works through us. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that as a frame of reference, that we're not just a 40-plus-year-old organization, that our fundamentals go back to the Melchizedek priesthood. Now, that being said, since we are a spiritual order, we believe in an inclusiveness, not exclusiveness. Even though we have kind of an exclusive lineage, it's not about making anyone that's not part of that lineage less valuable than we are. So we need to keep that in mind. Because spiritual, in the mind of God, from our point of view, is that we're all God's children, we're all made out of God's stuff. And so in the mind of God, if I can get in God's mind, we're all equal. And since there's no duality in the mind of God, that means because everything's all inclusive. Okay, now let's get back to the historical synopsis and principles we adhere to in our Madonna Interfaith community. I met Dr. Arnold Michael, the founder of the Church of the Talking Pines, which was established in 1979 in October. And I met him in the early 1980s. I happened to be in Ojai, California with my spouse, Bobby, who was teaching at the Oak Spa. I went to the Bart's book outlet around the corner from the spa and asked the proprietor if they had any more of Arnold Michael's books called Blessed Among Women. Previously, this book moved me so much, I felt I knew the Holy Family intimately. As it turned out, the proprietor said, I have many used copies. Also, Dr. Mike has written another book, Brothers of the Great. Check it out. And by the way, the author lives here in Ojai. So I purchased many of his books to share with my friends and called Dr. Mike. His wife, Kay, answered the phone and said, he's ill, please call back. So 3 months later, I visited him for the first time. His book and our visits eventually influenced a majority shift in my life, a change I did not see coming. Now, when I first visited Arnold, I had two members of my church, one a practitioner and the other the board president, and we visited Arnold Michael at his bedside where he was to ordain me. And guess what? He ordained all three of us. It didn't require going to school or special education. It required that intuitively he knew that each of us was following our bliss, our way of spiritually understanding. We're devoted to the life that is living through us. So he just decided to ordain the three of us. Isn't that cool? During World War II, Arnold lived in Laguna Beach, California, and managed the Hotel Laguna restaurant where he met Bishop Waddell. Now, Bishop Waddell is a bishop in the old Catholic Church, which broke away from the Roman Catholic Church when the Pope declared himself to be infallible. Became his spiritual teacher. So this Bishop Waddell now, who Arnold met while he was in Laguna Beach, became a mentor to him. And he had a wonderful church. If you ever visit Laguna Beach, it's a delightful little, it's the fact that it's now called a cathedral, but it's a small church. And it's icons all around the church, sacred geometry and such, point to a lot of things, spirituality through visualization. I visited that church one time, and the new bishop in charge of the church was apologizing for these icons. He had no clue as to what they represented. So isn't that interesting? So, but this Bishop Waddell then mentored Arnold in classes, and his wife Kay even told me that she heard that Bishop Waddell could materialize things kind of like Sai Baba. Now, how much of that's true, I don't know. Anyway, that was Arnold's first exposure to we call metaphysics. And because he was raised a Southern Baptist, he lived in the South, and I forgot which state. So during World War II, he lived in Laguna Beach and managed the Hotel Laguna restaurant where he met Bishop Waddell. Bishop Waddell, as I mentioned, was a bishop in the old Catholic Church. And we're going to come back to that. So did Arnold, so did I, and so did his wife, Kay. When the Pope, I already read that. So a second major event happened while walking on the beach in Laguna Beach. He was sitting on a bench one night, as he would do, just being quiet after work, watching the stars, listening to the surf. A stranger sat next to him on the bench. And guess what? He handed Arnold a booklet. And this booklet was really the basis of the book Blessed Among Women. It had a lot of the basic information from that. So when he read it and he digested it, it so moved him. He took a 3-month sabbatical leave from managing the restaurant, the Hotel Laguna, and went up to Pine Valley, mountains above California, and wrote the book, or the manuscript, called Blessed Among Women, which became the spiritual foundation for the Madonna Ministry. The newly formed Church of Religious Science, which grew out of the teaching of Ernest Holmes, became the spiritual springboard that launched Arnold Michael into a new career as a spiritual teacher, promoter, author, and example of the hero's journey. The dawn of renewed spiritual interest. In the latter part of the 19th century and all of the 20th century, there is a renaissance of New Age spiritual harbingers. From Madame Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, the Ballards, Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, Emerson, Ernest Holmes, and there is just to mention a few that brought us back into spiritual understanding. Arnold immersed himself in the science of mind, which became the building block for the Church of Religious Science, which evolved into the center of spiritual living. Arnold established 3 churches in different states and retired from the Sacramento church and moved up into the local mountains among the pines. Now, when Arnold was in Sacramento for, I forgot how many years, 6, 7, 8, he trained a lot of people, taught a lot of classes, and his wife, Kay, was one of his students. And here's an interesting sideline that Kay told me later in life, that Arnold's first wife was still living with him, but she had gotten dementia, Alzheimer's. She was really suffering. So Kay moved into with him and then became her caretaker, her caregiver. Isn't that interesting that she would take on that role? So Dr. Mike went back to school and studied philosophy, comparative religions, science, and became a teacher, minister, and writer. In later life, he became the bishop in the Old Catholic Church. Now we'll come back to the Old Catholic Church. Now, another side note of the Old Catholic Church, as I previously mentioned, the bishops in, or maybe I didn't mention, in Holland, that when the Pope declared himself infallible, they said, we don't go along with that. Everybody has their intuition. Everybody has a direct source. And so they broke off, but they still carry that apostolic lineage forward. And and then one of their offshoots, a bishop from France, came to the United States and consecrated and ordained many people, especially here in Southern California, one of which was Warren Waters, and some other well-known personalities whose names I've forgotten, which eventually ordained and consecrated Arnold Michael. So, you know, when he broke off from the Sacramento, when he retired from the Sacramento church, he moved up to the mountains, excuse me, above Sacramento. But his students wanted to follow him because they just liked what he had to teach. And his wife, Kay, was very good at, typing out his messages or his lectures. And so they made a habit of, on Sunday afternoons after their regular session of church in Sacramento, they'd come up and sit with Arnold Michael and he'd lecture on some subject. And while he was there, he had a mystical experience with a pine tree. I'll talk about that a little later. His students gave him the title of Dr. Mike because he was bestowed the title of Doctor, LHD, when he became part of the Church of Religious Science, because he had written the book Blessed Among Women, and it wasn't until much later that he wrote The Brothers of the Grape. So he got a doctorate degree in literature from the church. And then later, for all his work and establishing different churches, etc., he got a Doctor of Divinity degree in the field of science of mind and religious science, because that's why it was called Dr. Mike. I learned from Kate Michaels, which I told you about, Dr. Mike's mystical experience with a pine tree while living in the mountains above Sacramento, California. They moved from there to Ojai, California. Now, Ojai area is steeped in many spiritual communities. While living in Ojai, perhaps as a result of his mystical experiences, he created the Church of the Talking Pines. letters. As the story unfolds, Arnold, raised in the Southern Baptist tradition, finds himself writing a series of 24 letters entitled Madonna Ministry. This from a Southern Baptist who gives little attention to Jesus' mother. These letters, we used to have copies of them and then distribute them, but they're probably long lost. The letters were written under the auspices of the Church of the Talking Pines. So why do I bring that up? I'll tell you about it in a while. A year or so after Dr. Mike's passing, the board of directors saw fit to turn the nonprofit Church of the Talking Pines over to me. I managed it for more than a decade and have been an integral part of it for 40 plus years. One of the first things I did was to change the name of the corporation to Madonna Ministry. Looking back, I wish I had also kept the original name, the Church of the Talking Pines. For sure, there is a mystical quality to this, to spiritual awareness. Some of us may ask ourselves, how do I know that? Well, have you ever read a book or heard a talk that moved you to greater understanding? An understanding that invites you to let go of the old beliefs and willingly accept the new, more enlightened mode of being in the world. My longtime friend, Dan, urged me to write something about my involvement in the evolution of the Madonna Ministry when I renamed it the Church Madonna Ministry. My spouse and others thought it sounded too Catholic. Some thought we were honoring an entertaining singer, Madonna. My truth is that we were respecting the Divine Mother as represented in the Mother of Jesus, which is the Divine Mother in all of us. The Divine Mother in each of us is an aspect of compassion. Compassion is not a weakness. It is the grace that extinguishes the illusion of separation and pierces the very veil that seems to divide us. This is our God-likeness, the universal presence, source, and the creative force, which no words can adequately describe. What then is the Divine Father? The Divine Father in everyone is an aspect of the principle of creativity. It is our God-like will being expressed creatively. Without a will, no thing happens. As the Divine Mother is the principle of compassion, the Divine Father is the principle of creativity. So we could all say the Divine Mother is the womb of creation, that the divine will of the Father, God, goes into the womb of the Divine Mother and brings about a result. These principles are known by many other names, such as spirit, energy, life, love, and eternal creator. These principles are aspects of what I refer to as God. Okay. Here's what I understand. Our beliefs create our virtual reality. Our beliefs create the borders or walls in our individual universes. I believe I can, or I believe I can't. In the Madonna Ministry, we are a church, temple, community without walls. Our passion fuels the fire of our will. Together, they invite us to take the first step in the creative process. As infants, we take our first step. We reach out, we talk, we communicate, we eat. As adults, we employ our creative talents in our field of endeavor. Any questions so far? Okay, the divine spark within us empowers us. The Madonna Ministry encouraged us through the sacrament of empowerment to create something beneficial. I hope we never lose sight of that. The will to good urges us to bring forth something meaningful. For example, a woman who likes helping people make their transition from this life to the next comes to mind. She had no training, no credentials. Through the support and encouragement of our community, she went to Global, Arizona. She's now ordained by us, right? This is the place where Agent Orange was developed, a chemical tool of war. A very large percentage of the people living in the community were dying of cancer, something like 70% of the people in the community. A local priest is overwhelmed with hospice work. You might say the arrival of this woman is a godsend to aid the priest. The compassionate priest took her under his wing and trained her formally. This is one of the many examples of how the sacrament of empowerment and ordination and each of us on our hero's journey. When compassions enter into the field of endeavor, it is a holy instant, an enlightened way of being in the world. The Madonna Ministry does not seek vengeance as a divine attribute of God. When we say anything to deliberately hurt one another, it is an incomplete form of true love. When compassion enters into our lives, the outcome is complete. Our task as spiritual teachers is to follow our bliss. We follow our intuitive guidance, as Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey. More perspective into the Madonna Ministry. Saints, sages, and avatars have given us many examples of holy instances, enlightened moments of being in the world. The "you" in the word human represents the light of spirit we bring into the world. It is the "hu," H-U, is the light that, and then is also the H-U-E, the hue, is the expression of itself in all of its color and splendor. As human beings, each of us use the hue or light within us to express our lives as fully as possible. We're all unique individualizations of the one life, the life of God. It has been said many times in many ways, to err is human, to love is divine. My education and training was similar to Arnold's. My successful business career was not enough. It took some health scares, inner urges, and meditative practices that invited me to seek the resemblance of God. I went back to school and studied philosophy, science, comparative religions, etc. I also read many books on healing and sacred scripts from many walks of life while attending workshops. When traveling to sacred sites around the world, I encountered many examples of Mother Mary's apparitions to the multitude. Arnold Michael's widow, Kay, and I became trained as priests later, priests by Bishop Arne Waters, who was, again, part of the old Catholic Church. He also presided years earlier in the consecration of Dr. Mike. Bishop Waters was 100 years old when he performed his consecration ceremony on my birthday, May 7th, in Santa Barbara, California. He consecrated both Kay, Michael, and I. That is enough history. And now for more perspective. So Bishop Waters was part of the lineage that I talked about that came through all the way back to Melchizedek. Bottom line, we do not have to go anywhere to get it. We are right where we are supposed to be. The temple of the living God resides in all of us. How we awaken more fully is an inside job. Our beliefs can hinder us or help. The Aquarian age symbol of the water bearer signifies the flow of intuitive knowledge. The act of genuine compassion means the flow of energy is unobstructed and our hue, H-U or H-U-E, or light is shining. Some call it the Holy Spirit, the Holy Comforter, enlightenment, and or spiritual mode of being in the world. Emmanuel means God is with us. Christ-like means God is in us. We in the Madonna Ministry believe that God is a God of compassion. If God is with or within any of us, God is within all of us. We do not have to die to experience inner peace or compassion. Yet we may have to die or let go of false beliefs to be able to open more fully to the flow of intuition. In our three-dimensional world, we are taught exclusiveness. In the spiritual world or understanding, we see through the illusion of exclusive. Inclusiveness does not separate saints from sinners. Unconditional love erases the line of exclusiveness. Is there any questions so far? I'm almost through. Okay. We encourage. Membership is encouraged. The Madonna Ministry, the Madonna Interfaith community is not for everyone. Each of us must choose our own path. I am most grateful for the kindness, for the love, and for the many, many services that our community provides. The opportunity to share, to care, and to do is available to all. Many in our community take an active role in the art of healing, the art of administrating the rites and passages, which we call sacraments. The sacrament of empowerments helps move us forward to express their or our creative way of being in the world. We believe in supporting our organization in membership fees, donations of time, talents, and money. We believe in tithing, giving to other nonprofit organizations, of individuals performing works of compassion. Who are we? Some have thought us as spiritual orphans, spirits in rebellion against the old modes of being in the world, like a belief in retribution. Domination has given way to consensus. I gave up my dominant role to allow others to participate and to move more fully into the creative process. To let go, I need to trust the others, but adhere to the precepts we set in place. A longtime leader in our community, Maylon Lewis, stepped into the role of CEO and joined us in the board of directors. The organization grew nicely with an annual get-together. We expanded into the UK, into Canada, Australia, Mexico. She steered our organization for 12 years. Terry Riley, another long-term member, took the reins of our CEO, even though she had a full-time government job. Terry's entire family participates in our Church Without Walls. Terry helped us co-create some guiding principles and precepts and upgraded our internet presence. She formalized and established a fund for tithing and keeping the annual meetings going, and helped form a new board of directors. Terry was followed by a person who had minimal time with us in our organization and was not groomed well for the position of CEO. Trouble is, no one else volunteered. Now we are most fortunate to have a new CEO that has the background of management, sensitivity, and compassion, all existing. About 3 years ago, we split into two organizations. Some of us thought were too focused on the archetype of the Divine Mother, particularly Mother Mary. It was never Dr. Mike's or my intention to start a Marian cult, even though we have the greatest respect and love for Mother Mary and the Holy Family. In fact, our original intent was to ordain, bless, empower people who are doing compassionate work. Later, it became our intention to build a community of spiritual beings from all walks of life, a community that adhered to the precepts set forth by us, precepts that were aligned with what we endeavor to teach, like God is love. We explained to new candidates who are interested in our community, whatever their form of devotion or dedication to principle may be, that we respect their choices. We who love Mother Mary, her spouse Joseph, and son Jesus, recognize divine presence in them. The saints and sages and avatars we love and admire and have all are mentoring us into expressing our spiritual potential. All inspiration emanates from one source. Source is considered to be omnipresent. This means we cannot get our inspiration through anyone or anything else. It means it's omnipresent. We can get it anywhere. I receive a great deal of inspiration from Dr. Mike's writings. We orphans have created a home where we strive to nurture one another. Certainly, we learn from one another and encourage one another to live in our full potential. Like any family, we have had magical, even mystical moments. We had holy instances as well as disagreements and quarrels. When we quarrel, we feel separated, detached, and allow our difference to separate us. Love does not bind us, it frees us. It frees us from the attachment of our harsh judgments. Finding unity in diversity can be a challenge, but in the end, we discover that love is the answer. We have attracted many interesting people to our community. We have all suffered and celebrated, succeeded and failed. We have done our best to love one another and support each other. The laundry list of friends I have made within our community will long be remembered. I thank each of you for your willingness to establish, build, maintain, and co-create a community whose aim is to teach love by example. I have many fond memories of the many fine people who have graced our organization with their presence and participation. I'm particularly grateful for the individuals who willingly lead us to where we are. With love and appreciation, Charlie. That's it, folks.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
I just have one question, Charlie. How has the ministry blessed your life through the years?
How is the
I
ministry?
know that's a tough question to put in one sentence, but
How has the ministry blessed my life? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking? You know, I think the best way I can answer that, Kevin, is as each of us find the blessing within ourselves, then we open more readily to a greater sense of spiritual awareness. And there's been turning points certainly for every one of us in our lifetime, but one of the major turning points for me was when I graduated ministerial school. I thought I was going to be shooed in to be a leader in a local church, which I candidated for. Lo and behold, that didn't work. So I offered my assistance to the new minister. He didn't want them. I tried to start a spiritual study group, and that went nowhere. So I'm in limbo now for quite a while, maybe a year and a half, something like that. And, I've been married for 25 years, have 3 kids that mostly out of school or out of high school at the time. I didn't want to move. I thought, Spirit was going to give me a job right in my community, and that didn't work. So until I got melanoma cancer, I got melanoma cancer on the gut. The dermatologist cut it out, sent me a certified letter to say I'd have more taken out to be more certain about it. I called Gail back and I said, Gail, are the borders clear from your lab reports? He said they were. I said, okay, I'm not going to do anything else. But what I did do is I looked myself in the mirror, standing in front of a mirror in my bedroom, and I said, God, if I'm dying at the gut, what is it I'm afraid to do that I'm not doing? Wow, that opened a window. And so I was afraid to give up and to move on. And so I said, okay, God, take me an hour away from my home. I'll look for another ministry. And that didn't work. And I said, okay, God, take me 2 hours away from my home. That didn't work. So I said, God, take me anywhere. And I ended up in a 3-hour drive out in a community where nobody stops, everybody drives through. El Centro, California. And the years I spent there were beautiful because they taught me a lot. That's where I met a curandero in Mexico that I worked a lot with. And if you want to learn something, teach it. I was in the process of teaching spirituality, and I didn't even know how to write a lesson plan, but the church provided them. So it gave me the opportunity then to have classes. And I learned a lot from my students. I trust they learned something from me. So that was part of my hero's journey. And we all have them. Did that answer your question?
I'm pretty sure it did, yes.
Okay. Now, there are certainly, I've had many very enjoyable moments where I got met people from around the world, different communities. I became part of the healing community, global healing community out of England. And I met some wonderful people there. And I travel a lot with my wife, so then I would invite people from those areas, those communities to look at or join the Madonna Ministry community. One time I was in England, I was brought to a home of a young lady. I think there were 2 of them that asked me to come and, I guess, talk to them about the ministry. And while I was there, their house was all dressed, everything was black and white. And intuitively, I realized that they had been part of a priesthood in Egypt. And that their choice in this lifetime was to choose the white priesthood rather than the black priesthood. So what I'm saying is, I guess, we all have intuitions, and the more we pay attention to them, then we can serve others more effectively. So I gave her them the opportunity to give up the black priesthood and choose the white, but they didn't choose. Also, Harry Edwards was a healer in England who had audiences of 5,000 and won the respect of the royal family and all that kind of stuff. So I became part of the lineage of the healing group that was involved in that Harry Edwards teaching. But what I learned in Mexico, since science of mind my approach to science of mind was very mental. But when I worked in Mexico, I couldn't speak the language, so I learned laying on of hands. And so I got more involved in my feeling nature. So I became a more balanced person in my understanding. So, but the journey has been marvelous because I've met so many interesting people that I invited into the Madonna Ministry. Some stayed for a short time, some stayed for a long time. And in England, I invited a man who started the World Federation of Healing. He joined our community. He did healing work for something like 30 years. He self-studied without going to college and became a psychotherapist and passed all the exams. He worked with a woman that was a young lady that was born hunchback. And he worked patiently with her for 10 years, where she gradually made improvement. Didn't heal the completeness, but made improvement. As I brought online here recently, Jody, who is a practitioner in the healing arts, and she had a birth problem with a curvature in the back of something, and she healed that totally. So we are a healing ministry, and not just, and an education ministry, and a ministry. The big part that I like that Arnold really gave us was the empowerment, the sacrament of empowerment. As we come together and we bless a person in a way, and we encourage them to express something that's been latent in their minds or in their hearts that needs to be brought out. We encourage that, and that sacrament, it's so helped by the light that's in each and every one of us. We come into a community and we recognize and honor that person. Then we ask them to affirm, make the affirmation that you've already achieved what you have in your heart. And believe me, that is what enables a person to move further into. Doesn't mean it magically happens. It means that whatever they need to do is maybe go back to school and get a degree in nursing or something. Whatever, they take the right steps. They take the action and activity along with the spiritual jolt that we might give them in the act of sacrament, of appreciation of ordination. And it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be ordained a minister for us to do that ceremony. That's another important aspect. And the other thing I'd like to leave with you is that the temple of the Spirit is within each of us, and it educates us, and it's helped us on our journey. And what we're doing is honoring that inner spirit of that person. And they don't have to have a doctorate degree or master's or trained in whatever. That's within them, and we see it within them, and we help bring it out of them, or they're already doing the work, and we honor them for the work that they are doing. And that doesn't mean we don't have to educate. If people are interested in educating, learning processes that we ourselves know. But we should not ignore the part that spontaneous sacraments or ordination processes, if we follow our intuitive guidance, is all that's needed. Whoa, I've got to cover a lot today, and I'm glad I have had this opportunity to do it, because who knows how much longer I'm going to be around. And I'm so happy you put Arnold's books on the website that people can download them. I will do what I can find, see if I can find. I'd given all the information to Terry. I know she had it at one time.
Yeah, we probably have it too. It wasn't handy for me, so.
Yeah.
I actually have all of Arnold's little newsletters.
Oh.
I don't know where I got them from. I have this book, this thick binder, and
Yeah.
all 25 of his, and they're wonderful. So I'll have to find a way to scan them and send them somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
Terry had sent me some stuff. I may have to bug her for more because I know she has more. Laura, would you pray us out, please?
Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And a second slow breath in and a slow breath out. And one more slow breath in and a slow breath out. Mother, Father, God, creator of all that is, we thank you, thank you, thank you for our community, for the love that we all share and emanate to others. We thank you for bringing us together every Sunday. We thank you for this opportunity to serve Mother Mary and you. We thank you, thank you, thank you, and may we all be blessed today and every day coming. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Charlie, thank you so much again. If there's any more you think you need to share with us, let us know and we can give you another whole Sunday if you need it. Because that was fascinating. A lot of stuff I did know, a lot of stuff I didn't know.
And do we have a topic for next week?
Shirley is happy to read one of her messages from the ancients, if that would work for everybody. She's actually anxious to do that.
Okay.
Good.
We
Some
know
of
she's
the-
available.
She said she was. I will remind her. I'll see her on Wednesday.
Awesome.
And
And
Paula,
remind
Paula, do you have Fred's number? Can you send it to me?
Yes, it's in my phone. I'll be happy to send it to you, Laura. Yep.
Yeah.
As soon as I find my phone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Bye.
beautiful week. Thank you,
Have a
Charlie. Give
good
my love
week.
to Bobby.
I will. Thank you all. Love you all.
Love you too.
Big hugs.
Much love, much love.